I'm Janie Lantz.
And I'm Sue Hausmann.
We're going to share with you an easy technique for making trapunto for your quilts.
You know, trapunto is a technique that's been done for hundreds of years, actually, by hand. And many people have done it for quilts, pillows, for decorations for their home. But they did it the hand way, which meant they had to put a back on it and then design the outline of the trapunto shape with stitching, and then open the back, stuff it with wadding or polyfill, or in the old days wool fill, whatever, and then close that back up and finish quilting around the design. Now, we're looking at a design that you can create much more easily. Isn't this a beautiful pillow with the white on white work and beautiful feathers in the trapunto style? You're going to show us how easy that is. You actually chose to do it on something quite different than this beautiful white. You did it on denim.
And this was a really fun project to do because in our 5D QuiltDesign Creator software, which is part of that 5D quilt design system, we can actually use wizards to create quilt blocks, and then we're going to add an initial to it to personalize it and make it a trapunto embroidery.
So it's a personalized embroidery that you actually put on a pair of jeans that you cut up into a tote bag, created a tote bag.
Yes, because quilters love to recycle things, you know.
It's amazing. Did you do this on an embroidery machine?
Actually, I did that one on an embroidery machine. So
right over the seam.
Yes.
Great.
And we could have stitched that as well on a long arm quilter.
So if you have a long arm machine, you would do it probably on your long arm frame.
Yes.
Or if you are an embroidery machine owner, you'd do it in your embroidery hoop.
That's correct. Would you like to see a little bit about how we can create that?
I would.
Well, in our 5D QuiltDesign Creator software, we can just start the wizard up, and we're going to choose the part of the wizard where we can make a quilt block.
So this is a new feature, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Where you can actually start a new quilt block. That's what you've, that's great.
And it will help us design a block right to the size that we need.
Oh, cool.
So we're going to choose to go next in the wizard, and here we choose the shape for the outer part of our quilt block. So here you can see I have 9 different styles of shapes.
And of course, number 1 is a square, because usually a block would be square, and then we'd put in 6 by 6 or 8 by 8, whatever size we wanted. But you're doing something different today.
Yes, we are. Although, if you notice these, they echo the traditional shapes that we use when we piece our quilts.
They do. I see that half square triangle, and I see those octagons and those hexagons. So, yes.
So let's just use the octagon for our quilt block, and then we can set the size here. We can set it in inches, or we can set it in millimeters, whichever is easiest for us to use. And then we can choose from 6 different styles of quilt blocks. And each one of these has its own unique characteristics. The one that really lends itself well to trapunto is the filled quilt block with an outline internal shape. You can see how that gives us that lovely canvas in there to put the fat batting in it.
You will love that because this is something I have wanted, but wanted it really easily done, and this creates so easily.
Yes, fast in the wizard. And then we get into the internal shape.
Okay.
So we have even more choices here. We actually have 50 different styles from which to choose.
All right, 50 different styles that can be the center of our quilt block that is not quilted, but the outline.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. So we're just going to choose a circle and make it a circle and a square. And how large we want that center circle to be is just as easy as clicking the corner and dragging it to adjust it. And the size adjusts right with us.
So click again.
Yes.
It's
click
already
again.
filled.
Now, it's got a stipple stitch by default, but look at this. We can do channel quilting at several different angles. We can do diamonds or squares.
Grid quilting.
Yes. Or we can do decorative motif stitches, and we have a number of different motifs from which we can choose. Let's make this one a stipple.
Now I noticed each time you clicked on one of those fills for the outer area, it had options.
Yes, it did. So the options for the stipple allow us to set how far apart the lines of stitching are.
And so we probably want it a little further apart for this.
So we're going to set it at 2.6 millimeters apart, or 0.102 inches. And now you can see that's opened up. So if we're doing trapunto, we wouldn't want a really tight stipple stitch because that would compress the fabric too much. So we're going to make it a little more open.
Probably want to do a trapunto circle. You want to do something with some flair, like a heart or a flower. But how about a monogram?
I think a monogram would be absolutely awesome.
we thought you would enjoy that because there's such a trend today to personalizing things. And when you're making gifts for people or when you're making quilts for people, it's so wonderful to put their monogram on it.
Yes, yes. So here you can see it has brought us into our quilt block. And this is what we call tessellated, so it actually shows that block as if it was pieced in with other blocks to make a quilt, which is kind of a nice visual.
That is. So I see if we were going to do more than one of these, we would see how they would go together.
Yes. Cool. Yes, and how they would look. Now, I have my simple stitch around the outside, and I have my open center, so I can put that puffy batting in there, but I would like to put a raised letter right in the very center of it. So we have in our Create Tools a little text box, and it's as simple as click the text, click the circle, choose the font that we want to use, and any font that's installed in your computer will appear in this list.
I know, that's amazing.
Yes.
Any of your line fonts.
Yes. So we're just going to use Times New Roman, and we type in our letter. I'm going to use L for my last name.
Good idea. You typed that in already. L.
And then you would click OK, and it makes that letter, and it's kind of small, but we can select it and we can adjust it whatever size we want it to be within our circle.
So you can make it as large as you want or as small as you want. That's what's beautiful about this program.
Yes.
It's just all as easy as click and drag.
It is. And then you just tell it that you want an outline around your letter and no fill inside of it. And now we have our letter for the Trapunto.
And that's ready to stitch.
Yes.
That was really all it took to do it.
We have actually options in 5D QuiltDesign Creator software. We can choose to export it as an embroidery design. And
so that would be for people with embroidery machines to do it in the hoop.
Correct.
And many formats, all formats for different embroidery models.
But if you have a quilting frame and a quilt robot, you can also export this as a quilting design. And again, multiple formats for multiple brands of quilting robots.
Great. So once it's into your machine, in this case it was done on the embroidery machine, put on a USB stick, and it was so easy to simply hoop up. You tell people what you hooped up here.
Well, I just hooped up the quilt batting that I would want to use inside my quilted project. This one is a cotton batting because a tote bag needs a little firmer batting. And then we put a layer of fat, what we call fat bat, a real fluffy batting.
Extra loft.
Yes, over the top. And we stitched
and the difference
letter.
Is it's polyester, so it has more puff to it.
Yes. And we stitch the letter.
I should show you that.
And then we stop the machine and we trim with applique scissors to remove that excess batting.
So you actually take your applique scissors and trim very close to the stitching. A blunt end bent scissors will help with that.
And make it much easier to trim, especially with that really thick batting.
So now we have a puffy L in the middle of our fabric.
And then we just
lay our batting,
our denim or whatever fabric we're using over the top and finish stitching the design, and we get instant Trapunto.
So we would actually probably use our baste in the hoop to hold us in place.
Yes.
And then finish the design.
Yes.
And make your bag.
And assemble our bag.
Boy, I tell you. And once you've got the technique, how about Trapunto? Here's some more denim.
That's beautiful.
With isn't that beautiful? With a glitter type thread.
Yes.
And I love the other pillow, one of my favorites, with the feather heart.
Yes.
Done with the Trapunto. And think how much faster you can create this feather heart, because you can see how it's all done just with the embroidery or the quilting robot on your embroidery machine or your frame, and that quickly and that easily without any extra steps.
No,
Perfect.
Because everything's done with a wizard in 5D QuiltDesign Creator. We have a couple of samples of table runners underneath there too, Sue, that are just beautiful.
And I think this one with the glittery thread.
Yes.
I've got to get it into the light just right so that you can see it. There we go.
Isn't
that looks
gorgeous.
Yeah. And I liked this placemat. I thought, what a great idea to do some placemats. Wouldn't that be fun?
And the software also comes with some designs ready-made for those of you who don't feel like you're really super adventurous, but you can combine several together and size them to whatever size you need, and it's fast and easy.
Happy quilting.
Happy quilting.